The do-nothing Democrat.
Do nothing Democrat.
Do nothing Democrat.
What am I supposed to say?
Do something! Do something! Do something!
Do it! Goodbye. This is Not My Party. Brought to you by the Bulwark. So the Democrats' agenda is stalled, despite the party having complete control of Washington.
That seems a little unfair.
Yeah?
Part of that is due to a failure in strategy. Another part to the Republicans' complete unwillingness to compromise. But the main thing holding Dems back is something much more sneaky and intractable. Our friend, the filibuster.
Filibuster. Filibuster.
Filibuster.
This bad little bird is a Senate rule that forces almost all legislation to get 60 votes to pass rather than a simple majority of 51 votes. So what can be done about it?
Please let me know.
Get in, loser, we're going filibustering. First, the backstory. The traditionalist Mitch McConnell crowd would have you believe that our wise and infallible slave-owning founders enshrined the filibuster into law as a vital tool to protect our democratic republic.
Yeah, not so much.
The truth? The filibuster ain't in the Constitution. Thomas Jefferson rebuked anyone who spoke impertinently, superfluously, or tediously. Hamilton called the idea of giving the minority veto power a poison, but eventually senators found a way to flex their power. And by 1837, we got our first talking filibuster.
What the hell is that?
This weaponized long-winded debate to stall and prevent an unwanted bill from ever coming to a vote.
That is just obnoxious.
I know, right? I know.
Fast forward to the present, and our listless senators have swapped the talkie for something much lazier. These assholes just write in a little note saying they want a filibuster, and debate is stopped on the bill until there's 60 votes to overrule it.
Isn't that like cheating?
As a result, we now have more filibusters in a year than they did in the entire 1800s, and Congress is stuck in a permanent LA rush hour level gridlock.
That ain't no progress.
The lack of deliverables.
It's unacceptable.
So naturally, many Democrats want to dump the filibuster altogether, and people like Jim Clyburn have suggested a more narrow carve-out specifically to get voting rights passed.
The filibuster is not in the Constitution. It's not a law.
But they would need all 50 Democrats in the Senate to do so. There are two public holdouts, Kristen Sinema and Joe Manchin, and rumors of a few more who are keeping their pro-filibuster stance private. But here's one thing that should be private: going to the bathroom. But that hasn't stopped angry left-wing activists from hounding Sinema and Manchin all the way into the stalls.
Yep, they're still there when she comes out of the stall.
You can run, but you can't hide.
Occupied.
This strategy hasn't worked, and the two have maintained their pro-filibuster stance. Some of their reasoning is bad, like this.
I will not support separate actions that worsen the underlying disease of division infecting our country.
If the filibuster was stopping the disease of division, wouldn't we have seen some evidence of that by now? It was the filibuster that allowed for an unholy alliance between Republican and Democratic whites who wanted to block civil rights legislation back in the 60s. Now that's divisive.
Racially insensitive and divisive.
But there are some prudent strategic arguments for the Democrats to keep it.
If there were an attempt to get rid of women's healthcare decisions or protections for the LGBTQ community, I would want to make sure we had that tool available.
That's not a bad point.
Sometimes it's a good tool for your side to have. For instance, in 2019, when the Democrats were in the minority, they relied on the filibuster to prevent construction of Trump's border wall. And the Senate favors smaller rural states, so it has a natural bias towards Republicans. I never understood why progressive activists aren't more nervous to give increased power to a future Mitch McConnell-led Senate.
Well, this is just nonsense.
So what do I think we should do? Bring back the talkies. This would stop the shady practice of blocking legislation without having to lift a finger, and force the blockers to put their mouth where their money is, with the whole world watching. So if Republicans want to block voting rights, make them step up and explain it for as long as they think it's worthwhile. If anything, that might help the Democrats get the apathetic broader electorate to care more about this issue. Now, the talkie won't be a magic elixir for curing the disease of division either, but who knows? It might give this dangerous creature something to support. She'll come around.
Everyone makes their own decision.
Disagree? DM me and tell me that I'm wrong, and we'll see you next week for more Not My Party. For more weekly episodes of Not My Party, hit that subscribe button.